Have you ever said something that was so profound that you've thought, did I say that? Did that come out of my mouth? And then later, years later, you thought, hey, I said that. Okay. Well, we're out at Scripps Park in Rushville today. And this is a short devotional, midweek devotion from Littleton United Methodist Church. We're going to be talking about success and failure. During the COVID outbreak, I did a series of these Wednesday night devotionals for midweek inspiration, and we also taped our Sunday morning services and broadcast those too. But once we went live again, it became very difficult to do so because it was time consuming. And we didn't have the ability at the church to live stream. So we just had to let it drop. But I'm retired now. So I can begin to do a few of these. I hope that they're useful to you. Well, what did I say before? The profound thought, it didn't come naturally from me, but my thought was very simply, success isn't static and failure isn't final. Well, my kids failed a lot. And my kids succeeded a lot. They were good at some things. They weren't as good at other things. Primarily, when they were trying to do the things that they were good at, they succeeded. When they were trying to match somebody else at things they weren't so good at, they failed. Some subjects they exceeded in. Some subjects they didn't do so well. And I noticed, and I don't know if your families or you are like us or like my kids or not, but I noticed that whenever they succeeded, they kind of had a bit of a swagger. They were pretty cool. They were good at this. Whenever they failed, it was just the opposite. They were down, and sometimes it's because they weren't good enough and they weren't good at anything, or sometimes it was because it was somebody else's fault and somebody caused this. And I just noticed that they didn't always own their failures, and they didn't always acknowledge all that went into their successes. And there's kind of an emotional up and down with it. A roller coaster. When I said success isn't static and failure's not final, it sort of took the edges off some of those highs and lows. Some of the fear off of the failing. Added a little humility to the success. You know, you can accomplish a lot if you can overcome the fear of failing. And you can do a lot of good if you temper your success with a little bit of humility. I don't know where I first heard that. I mean, I can claim it as one of my axioms, but I don't know where I first heard that success isn't static and failure is not final. But it did mean a lot to me because I've had some remarkable successes in my life. I have gone some really cool places and done some really good things and had my 15 minutes of fame more than most people. I've had a lot of accolades and And I've had some pretty colossal failures in my life. I've flopped more than once, and sometimes didn't know if I'd ever recover. Lost sometimes it seemed like everything I had, and it's kind of hard to lose it all and get back up and take off again. It's kind of hard to shine one minute and be a failure the next. I knew that. But I also know that your success really doesn't determine who you are. Your failure doesn't really determine who you are, but how you handle that is reflective of who you are and who you are becoming. And I didn't want my kids to be afraid of failure. I mean, everybody's afraid of failure. I don't want to fail. You don't want to fail. Nobody wants to fail. But I didn't want it to knock them over. And I didn't want my kids to strut too proudly when they were successful. I mean, I want to be successful. You want to be, everybody wants to be successful to a point. And I knew from my life of highs and lows that that's not the end. That's just the journey in the middle. And I wanted them to know that too, even when they were young. Okay, let's talk about the secret to success and how to find fortitude in failure. Yeah, it's really not that tough. For me, for my family, it's pretty much been all about God. That is, my task is not to be successful. My goal is not to be a failure. My goal is to be faithful and run the race that God has given me with everything I have. And if and when I fall down, and then fall down again, and then fall down again, it's up to God to pick me up. I do everything I can, but ultimately, He's the source of strength. And when I achieve something, that's for God's glory. That's what I wanted my kids to have a life dependent upon God, whether you're succeeding or whether you're failing. None of us are self-made people, and none of us are tough enough to handle all of life by ourselves. Even if we think we can, we need God. So let me get a little personal and let this little story strike home a bit. What about you? Do you feel like a failure? Or do you feel like the self-made success? It's not over. Success isn't static. Something can still knock you off your feet. Failure's not final. God can still pick you up and make something special come out of it. And so my devotion today is just simply, success isn't static. Failure's not final. But God can help you navigate it through it. And if today you're feeling like a great failure, get up, turn your eyes on Jesus, and take off again. And if today you feel like you're on top of the world, be careful. There's a place. God has you there for a reason. And find that reason. I hope you found this little devotional to be helpful to you this week, maybe encouraging to you this week. If so, if it was encouraging to you, let us know. That is, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like. Maybe subscribe. If you're watching on our Facebook channel, the church's channel, again, give us a like. Or down below, write a comment. Tell us when God has been with you through a hard time, or God has used you through a good time. Your comment may be just what somebody needs to hear this week.